Hello and welcome to COVID Conversations here on WNCU 90.7 FM. We're streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I'm your host, Kimberley Cartwright. I'm the News and Public Affairs Director here at WNCU, and we're using the Zoom platform to talk about how COVID-19 is affecting our world. Dr. Hunter Boehme is my guest on the show today. He's an assistant professor of criminal justice at North Carolina Central University. And since the turn of the 19th century, beauty salons and barbershops have served as special places among African Americans on COVID conversations today. We'll talk about the findings from a research project conducted by NCCU faculty called The Importance of Barbershops and Beauty Salons as Community Anchors in Black Neighborhoods and the implications of COVID-19. I know that's a mouthful, but hello, welcome, Dr. Boehme, and thank you for helping us decipher all of this.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. First of all, can we talk about the position of barber and beauty shops in Black communities? What space do they occupy?
A very important one. And actually, my research, and I've looked through cultural, historical, and public health research and found that this importance of the barbershop and beauty salon in the Black community dates back before the pre-Civil War times. So it's been an institution for quite a while. It's a place of a sounding board. You know, people go there to get their hair cut, but through my research, has found that they're there for more than that. They're there to talk to people and have maybe give life, have some life advice given to them, before marriages, before, big employment changes, or whether they should go to college or not. Those big time life decisions are ran through the barbershop and beauty salon. So, parallel with the church, the barbershop and beauty salon is right up there in terms of the importance it means to these communities.
And that sounds like a great deal of responsibility for businesses in these communities. And I want to talk about these places of business as hubs for health and health information. So how does that play into what these businesses represent?
So it's also, you said place of businesses, I'll double down, say places of refuge. These are businesses that, first of all, from the geeky me of the researcher, there is research, public health research that has run randomized trials, public health promotion through the barbershop and beauty salon. For example, one study found that men who frequented the barbershop compared to Black men who did not had lower hypertension levels. And that was, you could argue why, but one reason would be just a place to relieve your stress. Additionally, there's been nurses who have done their job through the barbershop and beauty salon. So yes, even before COVID, there were public health initiatives that were run through these important businesses, but especially since COVID, whether it's PPE, hand sanitizer, masks have been distributed. So yeah, it is public health as well as mental health and crime reduction is also what I found, which we can speak about later, have been associated with these important businesses.
So who were the parties involved in the research at North Carolina Central University?
So myself, Dr. Tamika Williams, who is just fabulous. She's within the criminal justice department. I'm sure whoever's listening has heard of Dr. Williams. She's great. And a nursing student named Bryson Hernandez helped all three of those of us helped conduct the interviews, analyze the interviews, the data at North Carolina Central.
So can we talk about maybe some of the questions? What did you ask people, and how random was it at the barbershop?
Yeah, we did cold calls first to get permission. So we weren't these random people showing up in their business. We would call and say, hey, we're with North Carolina Central. We want to interview you to highlight the importance that, I think is largely under highlighted, for lack of a better word. So we called and for those who said yes, not everyone said yes, and understandably so, but for those who said yes, we would come in and we asked very broad questions. The beauty of qualitative research is we let the participants do the talking. We as researchers, it's an opportunity for us to shut our mouths and let the important, you know, you know, lessons be taught to us and let the participants speak. So we would ask questions such as, what do you think is your role in the community? What do you do if there's a volatile situation at your business? And these interviews were conducted during COVID. So we had to ask about that. How has COVID impacted you? What did you do when you were shut down? And we would create hypothetical situations like, what if a nurse wanted to come in and start giving the vaccine to people? How would you respond to that? Would you be okay with it? And, all interviews were different, which again is the beauty of qualitative. And we just let the participants talk based on very broad questions.
Interesting. What are some of the findings then in the research after you asked the questions and you met some of these people who would go and get their hair done?
Yeah. And a lot of interviews were really fun because it was multiple people getting involved. People getting their haircut would then speak on behalf of the barber or the beautician. Very dynamic. They would say, can't say their names, making up a name right now, but like Derek is so great. He's a great barber. Not only is he this and that, but he's helped me and my family, yada, yada. So some main findings was that they're, from a criminologist perspective, I was interested in the crime aspect, and they quite literally interrupted crime. They would give testimonies about people, two clients getting into it, and they would break them up. Or if someone was acting off that day, they would kick them out and have them come back the next day when they're in a better state of mind. So that was one of the findings. Another important finding was we created this term, Dr. Williams and I, called community anchors. They are community anchors. They're a place of public health resource dissemination. They're reliable. They're a safe haven. They're a refuge. So they're not just important to the individuals at the business, but the broader community. The third finding was that they're life counselors. They, as I mentioned before, provided life advice. They would many said, I feel like I'm a psychologist as well. So one beautician said that she's glad that she got her degree in psychology in college because she feels that has helped her speak to clients. Another barber mentioned that he would love to learn more about be trained by a psychologist so then they can talk to their clients better about depression and PTSD and so forth. So that was the third, was that they're life counselors. And then finally, we had to talk about COVID and how they were impacted. And yes, like all of us probably, we were all negatively impacted by COVID, but even through the negativity, they showed resilience. They got creative. They had they started other businesses such as selling t-shirts. They got into the stock market. They would, one got the PPP loan. So then he would not charge other barbers for renting out their chair because other barbers have to pay a due to cut at that business. So because they got help, from the government, they would then bail out other people. So everything I'm talking about, even through COVID, there was positivity going on.
So what is the most unexpected thing that you found out, if anything?
Honestly, I was so happy with how they opened up to me. As a white man, and I interviewed all Black participants, and I'm an outsider, so to speak, and they trusted me, I trusted them, and that was important. And how they would talk about their own struggles and how even again this theme of negative to positive, they would have struggles. They would tell maybe their childhood, or maybe they have mental health issues themselves, but then how they use that negativity in their past to turn it to a positive. Whether, I've been through it, so then I want to teach these lessons to the youth. I want to help with mentorship. I want to get people out of gangs. Stuff like that was the transparency with me, as well as just how everything was positive, no matter what. Because again, these interviews happened during COVID-19. Easy to be negative, but no, you got to keep moving. You got to keep going on.
I want to ask you, what are your hopes for the study? Well, okay. Well, how big is it first? Like when you wrote it all down, what does it look like? And then what your hopes are for the study?
Yeah, this is such a new, unfortunately, in the crime literature, no one really talks about the barbershop and the value it means to the Black community. So I just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to show my field, criminology, how important these businesses are and how we're so behind in our research about what's important to the Black community in terms of crime and whatnot. So that was the first goal. Second, I also think us as academics, we don't do a very good job of taking our research and putting it into practice and doing something about it. We write these 10,000 word papers and they get published and then they kind of just sit there. With the help of Dr. Williams, we plan that after our paper gets published, that she goes and gives this, in Durham, and I go and give this to the important legislatures, the mayors, the police, about supporting these businesses. That if another pandemic comes or if another crisis comes in the community, to draw on and rely on these businesses. So taking our research and actually putting it into practice, giving this research back to the barbers and beauticians, that this is what you helped highlight. So that's what we want to do.
So as a white male academic, why is this important to you?
Well, I get my hair, it started with personal experience. I get my hair cut at a Black-owned barbershop, and I've been doing that for 6 years or more even, that I get a lot, it started with just observing, and I'm like, man, everybody gets along in here. The jokes are, all in good faith. There's something to this place. And so during the conception of my dissertation, when I was getting my PhD, I found through a quantitative research that street segments in predominantly Black neighborhoods that have a barbershop or beauty salon on the street was associated with lower crime counts than other streets within those areas that have other businesses but no barbershop. So I found that I was not crazy, that there is something about these businesses that means something to these communities. So I really wanted, from personal experience to having to get my degree and to not just having it stop there once I get my degree, I want to push this further. And I want to be able to be one tiny little voice that highlights how important these businesses are.
So how many of the businesses said yes and decided that they wanted to participate in the project?
So there were 13 participants, which from 13 different businesses across Durham, as well as Columbia, South Carolina, because that's where I got my degree from. So I did a mixture of both cities. And I got told no, as I mentioned. So I needed, and that's where Dr. Williams really helped me out, because her sister is a beautician. She helped me get into the beauty salons. And so I would like to grow this to beyond more than 13. But these 13 participants help lay the groundwork for future research and future hopefully legislative change, to be honest with you.
So Dr. Boehme, did you find that customers actually listened to what the barber and beauty salon workers were saying to them about COVID?
Oh yeah, they'll listen to them more than even some loved ones. And the COVID aspect, we for example, I would ask about the vaccine. And one of the participants said, I don't believe in the vaccine and all that, but I will bring, I will allow a nurse to come give the vaccine in my business because I know it's good for the community. So, another participant who, cuts my hair, he said that if you give me 20 minutes in the chair to a client, talking to a client, I can convince them to get the vaccine. So to answer your question, that is, I think, a perfect testimony of saying that, yes, they will listen, that there's so much misinformation going around the vaccine, COVID, et cetera, from news sources, social media, that they were the trusted source about this stuff. And one of the beauticians mentioned that she didn't trust the vaccine at first, and then she eventually got it. And that kind of set the tone for her clients. When she said that she got it, they started getting it. So I hope that answers your question with an example.
It does. And audience, Dr. Hunter Boehme is my guest today. He is an assistant professor of criminal justice at North Carolina Central University. Dr. Boehme, thank you so much for being a part of COVID conversations today. I definitely appreciate your time, and I appreciate the research because it's giving me and my audience a different perspective about COVID-19 today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're so welcome. And thank you, audience, for watching via YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram, as well as listening to WNCU 90.7 FM. Be sure to like us. We want you to follow us. We want you to subscribe to our pages to see more of our archived shows. I'm Kimberley Pierce Cartwright, your host for COVID Conversations, and we thank you so much for tuning in.